his treatise on Gita. So it is that Abhinav Bharati, arguably, probably the tallest intellectual this land produced after Adi Shankara. That Abhinav Bharati, to meet him and to talk to him, a yogi from here, Tamil Nadu, his name was Madhuraj Yogi. He went and met him in Kashmir. Those days, now Abhinav Gupta existed in 12th century. When he met him and he wrote about him, what he said in Sanskrit can be loosely translated in English is, what others write is written on water. What Abhinav writes is written on heart. That is what Madhuraj Yogi traveled from Tamil Nadu, went up to Kashmir 1,000 years ago, had to say about Abhinav Gupta. And I'm talking about that Kashmir. I'm talking about Kashmir of Kshemendra. I'm talking about Kashmir of Lalita Aditya. Not just the intellectual tradition, not just the philosophical tradition, not just the tradition of aesthetics. Lalita Aditya was a great empire builder. And he was the contemporary of the times when Islam was spreading west and east. He was born in 699. He became a king in 720s. And his kingdom spread up to Kaveri in south. It went to Pragjotishpur, which is Assam, in east. And it went, Lalita Aditya, and it went beyond Persia, bordering Caspian Sea. I couldn't forgive my history teachers who told me about Ashok, who told me about Akbar, and failed to tell me about Lalita Aditya. He ruled from Kashmir. His dynasty was Karakota dynasty. It is that Kashmir. He built one of the finest sun temples. India has about 4 of them. The surviving one is in Konark. There was one in Multan. There is one in Motera in Gujarat as well. But the sun temple, Martanda Sun Temple of Kashmir, even in its ruins, is breathtaking. He built that temple. And it is this temple that was sought to be brought down, and I'll tell you how and when. So this Kashmir didn't have a Muslim presence till 13th century. The first Islamic ruler who came to Kashmir to rule came in 1339, mid 14th century, as late as that. And he did not come through a conquest. He did not win a war. His name was, his name was Shahmir. He was a rebellious prince who was exiled from his family in Swat. Swat was already under Islamic rule. The king of Kashmir gave him sanctuary. He made him a noble. He gave him land and other endowments. And he made him part of his council. And it is this king who usurped the throne when this king was absent, was away. When he usurped the throne, it was through palace intrigue. When he usurped the throne, he had a namam on his head, and he ascended the throne under mantrochar. His 3 successors ascended the throne in a Hindu tradition because they didn't have numbers. They wanted to keep the noble together. They wanted to keep the elite of the society with them, and therefore did not interfere with the systems. Sanskrit was the state language. Sanskrit was the state language for more than 100 years after he ascended the throne. Persian became the language of governance in 1450 under Zainul Abidin for the first time. Can you believe this is what has Kashmir gone through? It welcomed, it gave sanctuary, it gave prominence, it gave status, it gave comfort to people who usurped it and then unleashed terror. From 1339, for 222 years and 25 kings, it took this dynasty to continue. They were Shamsuddin, that's what they called themselves, the three key kings who happened in this flow of 25 kings were, the first one is Shahmir, the second one was Sikandar, and he called himself Butshikan. Butshikan is an iconoclast. I know what he did to Martanda temple. I was just telling Anantji on my way here. He couldn't stand the glory and the beauty and the sheer grandeur of that architecture. So he tried bringing it down. This is a massive temple. Huge stones, massive pillars, huge roofs. He just couldn't, he could barely scratch at the walls and the pillars. So what he did, he dug trenches around it, cut acres of forests in the vicinity, dumped that wood in those trenches, and burnt this temple for months for the rocks to crack up. This 8th century temple still survives. Those vagaries and those elements, it was desecrated in that film which we have honored with the national award today called Hyder. This temple, in the last scene of that Hyder, I wouldn't call it anything less than sacrilege. It was desecration. That is what Kashmir has been through. In 1990, our exodus was the 7th exodus. In our popular lore passed on from generations to generations, we had seen 6 other exoduses. This first dynasty that ruled for 222 years and 25 kings was replaced by Chaks, who were replaced by Mughals, who were replaced by Pathans, all Muslims, and they ruled till 1817. So 1339 to 1817, we saw 6 exoduses. Shrivar writes that they were driven to destitution. He says, about his own community, he says they were driven to destitution. They would hide in forests in the absence of food or water. Their tongues would hang out. They would die like starving animals, hunted constantly. And I don't want you to rely on Shrivar for a moment, because he is dismissed as a Hindu historian. I would urge you to just pick up the chronicles of Persian historians who've written about Kashmir. There are 2 books. One is Tawfatul Ahbab and another is Bahristan-e-Shahi. These are 2 Persian chronicles about Islam's exploits and conquests in Kashmir. And they are meticulous in their detail. In fact, they are so honest about the resistance that the natives offered them. They said they're so obstinate. We want to bring them light and they want to stay in darkness, and they fight for it. So each temple demolished, each vihara ravaged is meticulously mentioned there. What is very interestingly mentioned there is also the zeal of missionaries. There was a guy called Shamsuddin Araki. He was a Shia missionary. His disciples told him that these Kashmiris are very tricky, you know, because they fear you. In front of you, they accept Islam, they read the Kalma, and once you go, they go back to their old ways. So how do we deal with them? He says, please find out what is the way they will never be able to go back. How do I make it possible? So they go engage a lot of knowledgeable people, intellectuals in the society, and they find out that there is one papa for which there is no prashchita. You know, multiple lives you are condemned if you commit that sin, and that is Gaumansa. So Shamsuddin Araki says, fine. And he's also told that, listen, it is the woman in the family who's the culprit. She hides all the books and the texts, and she's the one who keeps the tradition going. She's the one who observes all the festivals and everything. So he would go to a village, establish a camp, and call the households and ask them to bring their cows. He would force them to slaughter those cows themselves in front of them and ask these women to cook, and then force the entire village to consume that. It is this, decades of it, which Kashmir has enjoyed. So these 6 exoduses happened in that kind of backdrop. And you can stomach that. We were under a hostile rule. There was no democracy, secularism, equity, human rights. So you could take it. In 1817, when the Islamic rule ended, it didn't end by itself. One of my ancestors, Birbal Dhar, he went to Maharaja Ranjit Singh. Maharaja Ranjit Singh had built an empire in Punjab, neighboring Punjab. So he told him, listen, Pathans have made life miserable for us. I have been allowed to travel because I have left my daughter-in-law and my wife and my mother behind. Only then Pathans could trust me and allow me to travel. I have come with my son. I know this place, I know this king, I know his capability. Please send your armies with me and you will win a kingdom. Maharaja Ranjit Singh said, how do I know that it is not a trap? He said, please keep my son with you here as a guarantee, as hostage. And Zorawar Singh was sent, his general. So Maharaja Ranjit Singh's army could chase away Pathans from Kashmir, and Kashmir was liberated from the yoke of Muslim rule. And how Maharaja Ranjit Singh come to put together an empire, a Sikh empire. In fact, we Kashmiris sometimes take credit for even the Sikh religion. In 1671, Mughals ruled Kashmir. They had a governor called Iftikhar Khan, and the ruler in Delhi was Aurangzeb. Naqshbandis told him to start the proselytization process. They said, where do we start from? He says, Kashmir is the place where all Hindu scholars head for whatever reason. They had found out that in Kashi also, when a student would complete his studies, as a ritual, he was asked to take a few steps towards Kashmir in his graduation ceremony. Kashmir is, Namaste Ma Saraswati Sharade Kashmir Purvasini. Kashmir is the seat of learning. They said, start from right there, where it all begins. So Iftikhar Khan began very aggressive proselytization, a campaign to cleanse. And when Hindus ran helter-skelter, one of my ancestors, Kriparam Dutt, went to the governor and said, what do we do? He says, there are only three options with you. In Kashmiri, they say, relive, galiv, ya tseliv. Relive is to assimilate, galiv is to die, and tseliv is to go away, run away. And if you run away, you leave all your possessions behind. He stealthily escaped with a group and came to Anandpur Sahib, a small town which was started by the father of Guru Gobind Singh. Sorry? Guru Tegh Bahadur, the 9th Guru. So Guru Tegh Bahadur told Kriparam Dutt that go tell this governor, why go in for retail conversions, person by person or family by family. Tell him that our Guru is Guru Tegh Bahadur, you convert him, we will all convert en masse. So they arrest Guru Tegh Bahadur, who was in Sirhind at that time. He refuses. They give him torture. He refuses. He's dragged to Delhi. They kill his foremost disciples there, burn them alive, fry them. He refuses. And then he is beheaded because he refuses. It is this martyrdom of Guru Tegh Bahadur, his father, that Guru Gobind Singh was driven to creating Khalsa. Hence, this dubious credit. But the point is, this Khalsa led to a Sikh empire, and this Sikh empire delivered us eventually from Muslim rule in Kashmir. That rule lasted till the Anglo-Sikh wars led to defeat of Sikhs. Ranjit Singh was already dead. His successors were not so strong. Now what happens is, the British at that time was East India Company, not the Crown. They were not interested in territory. They had come with a banner, territory, not trade. Trade, not territory. And whenever they would win a war, they would impose the cost of the wars on the losing king, so that they were actually, in net of balance, did not lose a dime. Now, Sikhs had completely gone bankrupt fighting those wars. And one of their Dogra chieftains who ruled Kashmir on behalf of the Sikh Empire, Gulab Singh, offered to pay the compensation to the East India Company, 76 odd lakhs. The Treaty of Amritsar was signed. Company said, we don't care, Sikhs can't pay. If you pay, you become the king and take that territory. They got their money. And this is how the Dogra rulers came to rule Kashmir, again Hindu, non-Sikh, indigenous. And they ruled till 1947.
That happened in 1846.
Yes, sir. So 100 years of Dogra rule. From 1817 to 1846 was the Sikh rule, 1846 to 1947. Now this 100 years of Dogra rule gave us some respite. It stopped the exodus. We were part of an independent, democratic, secular, sovereign country. Come 25 more years and we suffer the 7th exodus. not under Islamic rule, not under hostile invasions. You need to remember that. Under our tricolor. So it is this history that you need to remember. Under Dogra rule and under Sikh rule, there were no reconversions. Under Muslim rules, the shrines, the temples that were demolished, annexed, taken over, were not reverted. They continued in adverse possession. You can't show me a single temple which has been taken away from a mazar or a mosque or they call khanaka. These are shifa khanas. You know, there are different kinds of places. They're not all necessarily places of worship, but they are sacred places that were taken over. One such place is the most revered Kali Mandir in Srinagar, which has been converted into a sanctum sanctorum of a Muslim Peer. It's not a mosque, it's a Khanaka. Now the point is, where are we standing today? Where are we? Over continuous aggression, hostile, violent aggression, our population dwindled. There were rampant conversions and people were exiled, driven out, or plain simple killed. There is one folklore where 40 mounds, you know, there is a sair and there is a mound, earlier measures of weight. So how much would a poonal weigh? Now 40 mounds of poonal was extracted. The place there is called Bhatt Mazar. Bhatta is the Sanskrit word distortion of Bhatta. Bhatta is a Sanskrit teacher. Mazar is a Persian word, which is a word for cemetery. So Bhatt Mazar is where the mass graves of these people who refused to convert was made. And there are places. There is Hindu Kush mountain. Hindu Kush, what is Hindu Kush? Nasl Kushi. Kushi in Persian is to annihilate. Hindu, annihilation of Hindu. That is Hindu Kush range. It's not an innocent geographical feature. That's how Bhatt Mazar. The names have stuck. Nobody tried to dress it up. So this dwindling of population, and what happened was, because we did not come in large numbers from outside, we were indigenous people, and when conversions took place, from a village, just 2, 3 or 4 families left. Neighborhood turned Islamic. So you were solitary families in villages, in mohallas, in districts, and few sprinkling of it in towns. They did not come from outside, create a ghetto and lived securely, no. We were in every village, in every district headquarter, in every taluka, in every mohalla of Kashmir. We did not live in ghettos and became soft targets therefore. We were easy pickings for a hostile population. So, and also why we were driven out. Even if we did not live in that neighborhood, we had access as a teacher, as a postman, as a government servant. We were part of bureaucracy. And hence we knew the lay of the land, we knew people, we knew who were up to mischief, we knew the language, we caught the buzz. And that was not proper for an insurgency movement to brook. So they wanted to drive us out. And hence, as Professor Vaidynathan said, late night mosques, the loudspeakers in the mosques, late night in January, imagine, when there is snow all over, people don't come out and there are no central heating systems. And you know how sound pierces darkness and travels. There, if you get to hear, you're sitting and sleeping with your family, you get to hear ए जालिमो, a kafiro, Kashmir hamara chhod do. And I guess Pannui Pakistan, Batavrosti, Batnavsan. This is a Kashmiri rhyming slogan. I guess Pannui Pakistan, we want our Pakistan. Batavrosti, Bhat is the male Bhatta, Hindu. Rosti, without them. Batnavsan, with their women folk, Batnis. And imagine if you have daughters, if you have mothers, if you have sisters at home with you, and you are just one or two houses in a sea of Muslim neighborhood, what it does to you. And when already you've had selective killings taking in place of you, the Director General Doordarshan Lasakol was killed, Neelkant Ganju, the judge, was killed, someone who translated Upanishads into Persian, he was shot right between his brows. And not just this, Sarla Bhatt, a 23-year-old staff nurse in Sher Kashmir Medical Institute, was abducted, gang raped, and a week later her mutilated body was thrown. And who did this? The same Yasin Malik, who was at Pakistan High Commission on their National Day on 23rd of this month, where we sent our Chief of the Army Staff and a minister in the government. When our own Prime Minister, while fighting an election campaign, said, बम गोले बंदूक के आवाज में बात होती है क्या? जो देश हमारे सैनिकों के सर काट के ले जाए उनके साथ प्रोटोकॉल होता है क्या? His words. So this is what we are faced with. We have a problem in our hands. Almost a second generation has grown out of its home, out of its environment, out of its linguistic, cultural, social area. They're growing up rootless. They're forgetting their language, they're forgetting their rituals and festivals, they're forgetting their lifestyle. They're fast getting assimilated because they don't live where they belong. If language is lost, which other marker of your identity remains? And that's what we are losing. But there doesn't seem to be anybody in a hurry to place us back. We are in nobody's agenda, we are in nobody's program, we are nobody's concern. And what will go down with us is what I detailed in front of you. 5,091 years of history, of literature, of a tradition which is not going to find continuity. And this is this tradition for which 40 mounds of Poonal was collected. I don't know why they had to survive or die if this is how we need to die. They could have converted and survived. If they died to keep something alive. But that something doesn't seem to be going to live for too long. I think I'll end it here. And if you have any questions, I'll try and answer. Yeah, it's a very good question. Some of our exoduses brought us to the plains of North India. So some of my ancestors settled at Allahabad, Kanpur, Lucknow, Jaipur, Gwalior, Indore. They were Brahmins, but they were unlike the Brahmins who prevailed at that time. So the peer Brahmins in the plains of North India, to distinguish us from themselves, said, "Ye Kashmiri Pandit hain." This is not the name that we gave ourselves. this name